I want to welcome Kennesaw Happenings. We brought somebody in from outside of Kennesaw. She had to come back to the big city to come into our studio. So, Glenda, we appreciate you making the drive because you're in such a nice area out there. It's hard to get you back. So, tell our viewers who you are, what you do, and who you serve, and then we'll get them to get to know you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Pete. Good morning, everyone. My name is Glenda Hicks, and I am a consultant and trainer for not-for-profit organizations and those businesses that support them. And I provide capacity building services to help them ensure their sustainability.
That is awesome. We have a fair amount of nonprofits, and my partner's very connected to that segment.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's challenges in there that we get into nonprofit, and we sometimes think, okay, it's nonprofit,
Mm-hmm.
but it really isn't. It's profit because you got to generate the donations and the support and all the things that make it a business, but it has the word nonprofit in it.
Absolutely.
So how did you get into it? What drew you into this work?
The short story is, I think, just my inner drive to serve others, to make a difference, and to give to the community. But it started just in my first job as a CPA in public accounting and serving both nonprofit and for-profit clients. But when I left there, I went to a not-for-profit organization, which was a university, and then left that job and went to a community-based not-for-profit organization, really in the trenches serving the community. And I just had a heart for that type of work. And when I left that, I decided to start my own practice, which I've had since 1999, just serving organizations. And quite honestly, it was referrals. Everything that was referred to me happened to have been a not-for-profit organization. It wasn't anything of my own doing.
Right.
And I eventually realized, okay, this is my calling. This is the space where I'm meant to serve. And so then it became intentional that I focused on nonprofit organizations, because each time I left a job, it was because I felt like I need to do more. I need to get deeper. And how do I do that? And then I realized it was in service to nonprofit organizations.
Oh, that's awesome. You know, the idea that somebody has that servant heart and devotes their whole time to it, because most people, their nonprofit is a volunteer.
Yes.
You know, they do a portion of their time, but you're in it completely, like hook. I mean, everything.
Yes.
So you see things from a different set of eyes than most. So if our viewers are out there and they have a nonprofit, we usually get to know your story. We'll circle back, but I really want to address the three like pressing things you see come up all the time when it comes to managing it, because we want our nonprofits to do the best they possibly can, because the more skills they have in reaching the area that they're reaching, the better.
Right.
So what would you say, like, let's start with number one. What would you, if you had to share with our viewers that?
I would say the biggest challenge is at the board of directors level. And that's really what drew me into more capacity building work and out of the more accounting and finance driven work, was because in the accounting department, we see everything, pretty much everything is going through finance at some point for whatever reason, hiring folks, paying vendors, reporting to funders and the like. So we're seeing that. And I saw this perspective. I was helping organizations to fix their problems. You know, they would call me in and I would help them clean up, catch up, and come into compliance was my slogan. But I felt like instead of coming in after the fact and fixing it, how can I help them understand how to do it right on the front end and train and equip them? And I saw that a lot of their issues emanated from the very top, which was the board of directors. The board was not clear around what their roles and responsibilities were, or more importantly, how to execute those effectively. So I would say the number one challenge I see with organizations is finding board members that understand their roles and responsibilities, how to execute it effectively, and really prioritize that service. They want to be on the board, they want to give back in that way, but they're challenged with balancing their day job and their family and life commitments along with that commitment to the organization. So it has become a big struggle for CEOs and executive directors to find them, to get them trained, and to work collaboratively with them in partnership where they understand that line of division between governance and daily operations. And sometimes they cross it, and that creates other challenges. So I think that's one of the biggest things, is that high performing board of directors.
Wow. What would you say, like, in that, I kind of, in my experience, I'm not surprised. I heard something the other day, and we'll go to the second one in just a second. The person was sharing that the amount of nonprofit participation, and he was talking like being intentional about serving. And so he said, he brought up some of the service organizations out there. Their numbers across the country and the world are way down because we're real busy being busy. You know, everything's hitting us. And it's like, yeah, I would like to serve. However, I don't have the time. What would you say, and what can you tell our viewers as it relates to that question?
To be honest with yourself is what I would say, because we all have competing interests of things we'd like to do and things we want to be involved in. And I find that we stretch ourselves thin trying to do it all. When I hear about individuals that serve on 5, 6, 7 boards, I just sit back and think, how do you do that? Why do you do that? You know, what's the motivation? Is it really about being an effective steward and helping that organization expand its reach and grow its resources? Or is it about getting more things on your resume, or being able to say say to people, I'm on the board of XYZ. So when you're honest with yourself about your motivations and around what you truly have the capacity to do, then you'll find yourself becoming, hopefully, more structured with your time and limiting the number of things you're in. And then the beauty about serving on a board, ideally, is that there's term limits. And so you're going to roll off, and you don't have to re-up, or you can a second term if your time permits. But if not, that's one of the ways you have an out to then take a break, give someone else an opportunity to serve, or move on to another passion that you have. And so it's, I think, a combination of overextending yourself, but then also not being mindful of how you manage your time and how you prioritize what's really most important, and create a balance. And I don't know if we ever really get a balance in our lives. We're always striving for more of a balance, but it's truly hard to get that perfect balance.
No, I agree with you. I heard a person that I listened to and aware of that you're always getting out of balance and getting back. It's kind of like a balancing act in itself, because you'll have days where you're pulling your hair out, and then the next day you figure out some things and it's a little bit better. But if you live your life in the comfort zone, it's a comfort zone. Nobody wrecks a statue and says, man, Glenda, she hung out there in the comfort zone and did some comfortable things. That's never the case. So it's the people that stretch, but managing. What would you say, and I don't know if it's ever come up, I know it has in our work, how do you tell the resume builders from the people that truly have a heart to serve? Do your nonprofit say, Glenda, would you help us kind of evaluate our volunteers to see if we have the right people in the right places?
I haven't been asked to help evaluate per se, but I am asked to help them create an infrastructure for how to attract the right people. So I have trainings that take them through that process of putting in a system that's
Mm-hmm.
very intentional and is year round. Because what I find is they look for board members right when they need them, and they're not cultivating the relationship and really trying to do this year round and make it effective so that you get the right people. But I
Mm-hmm.
would say the way you know the difference is their behaviors, their performance or lack thereof. If they're not showing up to meetings consistently, if they have high absentee percentages,
Mm-hmm.
if they are not making a personal donation to show that they're first and foremost committed,
Mm-hmm.
if they're not attending activities, fundraising events, if they don't truly understand the services that you offer,
Mm-hmm.
then that's an indication that it was maybe a resume building opportunity, or maybe they truly had good intentions, but now things have gone left and they just can't do it anymore. But
Mm-hmm.
they feel uncomfortable with the conversation of saying, I just can't do this anymore, because no one wants to disappoint or let others down. And instead of saying transparently, this doesn't work for me anymore, I need to step down, and give you the opportunity to bring in someone else, they just continue to fill that seat and not
Mm-hmm.
do anything. So it's more through observation of how they're performing that you get an indication of whether they're truly committed and that this is the right time for them. Now, whether someone says something about that is the issue. And that really should be the board chair who's stepping in and being cognizant of what's going on
Mm-hmm.
and taking that leadership role. Often the executive director ends up being the one that has to do that. And they feel uncomfortable because they look at the board as their boss.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're telling their boss, you're not pulling your weight. So it's about communication, good communication as
Yeah,
well.
it's so important. A person was sharing with me, and I want to go back to your what you said, which obviously stood out in my mind, is, are you supporting the organization?
Mm-hmm.
Are you putting your money where your time and effort is?
Mm-hmm.
This person, they had to cancel an event because she was the only one driving it. And when they did cancel it, a couple people chimed in like, why did you do that? And they were people that had never bought a ticket to the event. It's like, okay, I'm the only one doing it, and I'm asking for the group, and you haven't even supported it with your ticket. So it's kind of like that what you just said is, if you truly believe in an event, be a participant, buy a ticket, be there, instead of saying, well, I'll wait for Glenda to do it, or I'll wait until something such and such, because you can't wait. These events, they're holding these events, they're committing to places, they're committing to bands, they're committing to a financial resource.
Yes.
And you can all of a sudden say, holy mackerel, we have 10 tickets sold and we've spent $20,000. We're going to lose money.
Exactly.
And so I love that you say, put your money where your charity is, where your heart is.
Yes.
And don't just say you're going to do it, be intentional.
Absolutely.
So what would you say the second thing that you see in your work?
Well, a second thing is on the organizational infrastructure itself, in terms of having things in place. And this is true of any business owner, whether you're not for profit or for profit. Just getting all the things done, wearing the multiple hats of trying to tend to the marketing and the recruitment and the service delivery and the record keeping and all of that, and having policies and procedures in place that become the foundation of how things are done. And so there's these unwritten processes and the way we just do things. But when there's transition, you need to have the paper trail so that when people come in behind you, they know what they're supposed to do and how to do it and what the expectations are. So getting that infrastructure in place and the policies and the procedures written down and the training calendar and the orientation, both for the board of directors in particular, but also staff. I mean, people think of that more in terms of staff because they're hiring and they have policy manuals, handbooks, employee handbooks, conflicts of interest, things like that. But a lot of those things are questions that are on, say, for example, the tax return, just to give people a sense of comfort that you have them in place. Not that the IRS can come after you for not having them, but when people evaluate whether you're worthy of their time, talent, and treasure, they're going to a particular website, GuideStar, typically to look up your organization based on your tax return and to get some answers around things you have in place. And so not just a matter of showing the internal folks how things should be done, but showing people external to your organization that you have controls in place, checks and balances, procedures and processes that give them comfort to know if they entrust you with resources, you're going to manage them effectively and efficiently and transparently. And so I would say a lot of organizations I encounter want support in that area. Help us, give us a template, give us some samples that we can then customize and make our own. And that's what you should do. Start with templates or samples and then customize them to the specifics of your organization and how you operate. And that will put you in a better position to then get funding, because then those funders have confidence that you're going to deliver on your mission and you're going to do it responsibly with what they've awarded you as funding. So infrastructure is another big piece. And that's not just at the beginning of your nonprofit's life cycle. Most organizations that come to me have been around for years, decades even. And there are places within the agency that need shoring up. And so they'll seek out a consultant to help them to both understand it first and then to get it done through a roadmap.
Yeah, that, the efficiency of how we operate, because everybody has 24 hours.
Yes.
Nobody can say, hey, I got 25 today. No, it doesn't work that way. But you mentioned something, you said GuideStar. Is that the same as Charity Navigator?
No, they're in the same space. Charity Navigator really started out more as a watchdog, if you will, and they were following certain nonprofits that didn't have a choice. They would select who they followed to run different metrics and keep tabs on how organizations were performing, to give the community a sense of comfort and a way to evaluate through an objective mechanism and score how organizations were governing themselves, delivering on their services and things of that nature. GuideStar is an organization that was originally its own. It's now under the umbrella of Candid. Candid now is the parent to GuideStar and a couple of other organizations, nonprofits. But their claim to fame, if you will, was the fact that they get this feed from the IRS of 990s, the tax return, the annual information return. And so the general citizen can just go to GuideStar and look up information on organizations. And now they have different levels of credentialing that you can earn that exhibit the degree to which you have good stewardship and performance and execution on your services. And they also have databases that you can purchase in order to compare yourself against others, which is great from a benchmarking standpoint, to see how well you're maybe paying your people, compensation studies, or the metrics around the number of clients you're serving or the impact you're having. So they have a lot of additional resources available, but it's the number one website that folks go to get that initial information outside of the actual website of the organization, because not all organizations put their tax returns on their website or their audit report, although many do, again, in an effort to be very transparent about their resources.
Yeah, being transparent, I will talk to different individuals and everybody has their passion, but you look at the landscape out there, there's thousands of nonprofits. Yes. And so people are making a decision, which one are they going to support? Just because you support it doesn't mean the world's going to support it.
Right.
So, having those metrics and things in place that gives them the confidence that what you're doing is you're not paying half the budget to a few people, whatever
Yes.
whatever they are, it gives the donors a sense of confidence that the money's going where, the impact is being made.
Definitely, definitely, because you want to function ethically and responsibly. One of the resources I use is through my licensure with the Standards for Excellence Institute, and they have an ethics and accountability code for nonprofit sector, which really helps them to build that infrastructure that I mentioned, but also gives the public a sense of assurance, because you can also earn levels of credentialing through them that demonstrate the fact that that your nonprofit recognizes the position they're in. And going back to your comment before about nonprofit needing a profit, you need that surplus. We kind of soften the term and say a surplus or a deficit. You need that surplus to grow your services, to train your employees, to give them raises and bonuses, to get equipment. We were talking about AI before we went live, to bring them into the 21st century, to be able to implement efficiencies and things that are more effective and reach people that are in, rural communities that need services as well. So being able to have those things in place takes resources, takes money. So you want that surplus, but the difference is the motivation is not to make the money to benefit investors in the way that a for-profit is trying to make money to benefit, stockholders and the like. But they both need surpluses to be able to achieve their goals. And so the more that you can give an individual confidence and comfort in the way you run your organization, the better off you will be. The easier, in fact, it will be to attract people to come work for you, to volunteer for you, to serve on your board, and to give you donations of space, of property and equipment, of money, sponsorships, and the whole gamut.
Yeah, I like that word. Nobody's ever said that, but that is a softer word, surplus versus profit. So thank you for that. I will use that in the future, because there is obviously a difference. I was with the DA of Cobb County, and he was asked a question, and it was like different things, his priorities. And he mentioned partnering with faith-based organizations. What do you say out there to people that may not be able to understand completely the benefits that weren't? He had a great answer. So what would you say when you're talking to organizations that need to have those partnerships? Because he's saying, like, the churches have extra space, the churches have extra time, if it's a Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, there's other times when the building's not being used. How can you share with our viewers just your thoughts on that?
First, that's an excellent idea and response in terms of the concept of churches having excess space. They're not open 7 days a week, many times. And so that's a great opportunity for them to generate revenue if they actually rented out the space, or and for you to maybe have a more affordable space as a not-for-profit, because you don't need it 7 days a week either, perhaps. When you're first starting out. But collaborations and partnerships are key. And it's because it allows you to extend your reach, to leverage services that others have a greater degree of expertise in, to get referrals for the clients you actually serve and customers, because maybe they're coming through the doors of others that can now be referred to you. But it also helps in garnering actual cash and resources, because funders look to see the degree to which you collaborate with others. And a lot of times it's a requirement for seeking certain types of funding. It's explicitly in their application instructions that we want to see a collaboration here, a partnership. Most organizations will have MOUs, memorandums of understanding, with other entities that lay out how that relationship is going to work. So there's many benefits there for all involved, especially when you do have excess inventory of some kind, whether it's physical property or otherwise, that can benefit another organization, or you have people that are looking for volunteer opportunities. And churches most definitely are in their community. They're reaching out to their community. They're giving back to the community and supporting the community. And so their membership is looking for different additional ways that they can have that kind of impact. And nonprofits are always looking for volunteers. And so it's great that you can align and partner. So really getting out there and talking and sharing and letting people know that you're here and what you do is how you open the conversation and have the discovery that, oh my goodness, we were looking at X and you're looking at Y, and let's come together and solve it for both of us. And it becomes a win-win.
Yeah, I was the first time I was in the Family Advocacy Center in Cobb County, and it's a beautiful facility. And it's like the collaboration of having something available in the community that people can be able to go to, because we don't see as many in the community. But he was saying, like, churches are already there, and so it's like opening up your doors Monday through Friday to be able to maybe use different resources that are out there and available. So what would you say your third insight that you can share with our viewers?
I would say the third thing is around leadership. I do a lot of work with organizations in terms of developing leaders, whether it's the board of directors in their stewardship and governance role, or the chief executive officer in terms of leading the staff, and now even coaching staff, frontline folks in the area of leadership, in a way that they recognize that even though they may not carry the title, they're still a leader if someone is relying on them to do something, for information, to coordinate a project, to provide a service to a client or a customer. That's a leadership role. And so I follow a model, the Leadership Challenge, the 5 Practices of Exemplary Leadership by Kouzes and Posner. And it really has allowed me to align their concepts with executing your roles, whether you're on the board or otherwise, because that concept of being a leader and recognizing how it's not just the humility of it, but it's, modeling how you should perform your duties, modeling the way that you expect things to be done, or the way your values, what are your values, and aligning your personal values with those of the organization, and helping to inspire people within the organization, and ensuring that they have what they need to get the job done. When I work with organizations and do, for example, surveys around strategic planning, when we're gathering data so that we can create a strategic plan, I've seen feedback from organizations where the staff are really frustrated. And we've seen this because of the COVID pandemic, where we had the Great Resignation and employees were leaving because they recognized that there was more that they valued in their life that wasn't happening with their job. And so they just said, we're out, and they started leaving. And talent acquisition is still a challenge, even for nonprofits, not just the big companies for profit. And it's because people have decided what matters to them and what they want to do and what they're willing to do and how far they're willing to travel and what they need from a work-life balance in terms of being able to work remotely a few days. And so listening to your employees in a way that many companies, and nonprofits included, have not done before. So you've got your industry leaders who, the names are out there where they're very well known and respected for how they treat their employees. But as a whole, there was still this old approach to just do what I say. I'm the leader. You've got a job. Be happy. You get paid. Come and do what you're supposed to do. But in the nonprofit space, we've always had a softer, gentler kind of approach because there was a heart and a passion. It wasn't about the dollar. It was about the service that they provided. But they're still experiencing as employees the same challenges of, are you listening to me? Are you being fair? Am I getting included in the conversation? Am I getting an opportunity to take a break? Have you equipped the office in a way that is conducive to my abilities? And so leadership is now starting to recognize that because they were forced to.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I do when I come in is provide training to help the leaders and the staff begin to value each other more,
Mm-hmm.
and really communicate more effectively and understand what it means to celebrate each other, celebrate differences, equip them with what they need, give them the support, allow people to work independently, and then give them guidance, coach them. How do I coach them and not just tell them I want it done this way? Because a lot of leaders are prescriptive in that way. They give you a task and then they tell you exactly how to do it. So you're feeling stifled that you can't spread your wings and share your talent and your thoughts because it's got to be done the way the boss said.
Yeah.
And so helping organizations to reconcile the way they may have done business before with their employees in that relationship, and trying to create an environment that's more open, that's more rewarding, and that helps the leaders recognize what it means to give employees the tools they need to do their jobs effectively. And then allowing them to challenge the process, to actually come up with ideas of how could we do this differently? I have an idea, how can I share this and be a part of the think tank? And a lot of this may sound strange to the listeners because it sounds very corporate, but I guarantee and promise you, I am working with nonprofit organizations on these very issues. How do we retain our talent that we have? How do we recruit new talent? How do we change our benefit and compensation structure? And how to create a succession plan? I mentioned that term earlier. You know, a lot of them don't have a plan in place of when the executive director is ready to leave. Who are you grooming internally? Who are you looking at that could maybe move into that position? And even on the board, you have this table of all these dynamic leaders who are powerhouses in their organizations or in their community. They may be community activists. But when they come together as a team, they have to gel quickly. They have to build trust quickly because the seats are constantly turning over on the board. Every 3 years, someone's rolling off, which if you've got them staggered as you should, every year, someone's rolling off. And so you're constantly bringing in new people that have to build a trust relationship quickly, and they have to gain an understanding and a knowledge quickly, and then they have to make legal fiduciary decisions that steer your nonprofit organization. So I would say the third one is really around leadership development, which has a lot of tentacles under that that umbrella. So,
I like that. I heard somebody say the other day, you're a leader, you look behind you. If there's anybody there, you're good. If nobody's there, well, you're not a leader.
Absolutely. I love that.
Yeah, that's kind of it's a simple way of just measuring, your leadership ability without even taking a test. You just can see. So I want to be respectful of your time. And if I was on top of things before we started, I would have put in the banner your contact information. But let's see if I can do it while you tell our viewers how can they get a hold of you.
Absolutely. Thank you. So the website is 501c impact.com.
Okay.
501c
impact. Okay.
.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. We'll see if I got it right here. Okay. So 501c, and we'll just, yes. Okay. Here we go. At least we can visually go up there. Now everybody knows it's www. So
yes.
So 501cimpact.com. And can they find you on LinkedIn or?
Yes, under my name, Glenda Hicks.
Okay.
I am on LinkedIn.
Awesome.
501c Impact has a web page. I have a phone number they can call 770-865-0979, and they can reach me that way as well.
Awesome. What would you want our viewers, what would be the one thing in our conversation here that you would want them to take home with them today?
I would say to seek support, seek guidance. There are lots of consultants and trainers out there. Obviously, I would love for them to contact me and give me that opportunity to, and that honor to walk alongside them and help them build their capacity. But there are numerous consultants and trainers in the Metro Atlanta area and throughout the state that they can reach out to get guidance and support and services and training to help them, because so many folks that I encounter are just they're lost or confused or frustrated. It's like starting any business. Where do I go? What do I do first? What do I need? Who do I know? How can you connect me to this person or that? And it's just very helpful to have that coach or consultant there to ask questions of, but to also get very specific support. And that would be the one thing I would ask that, they take away from this. And just, I love what I do. I'm passionate about it. And I try to be very creative and innovative in the way that I do things. I created a board game that I use to help folks learn their roles and responsibilities and operations of a not-for-profit, because I just felt like with so many of us doing this, there had to be another way to really connect what people know with what they do.
Right.
And so I felt like experiential learning was the way to do that, so they could learn by doing. So there's a lot of different things that I and many others have pulled into their practices to make things different. And so for me, it's innovation, using design thinking concepts to help get through strategic planning and things of that nature.
You're saying some really key words in there: thinking, strategic planning. I mean, today we're bombarded with so much information. We're like not thinking like we used to. We hit the GPS and it takes us there.
Yes.
We use that phone like it's our digital brain.
Yes.
And it takes away from our real brain. So you almost have to go back to thinking, because it's almost becoming a lost art.
And I guess another key word for me is intentional.
Yes.
Being very intentionally thinking, to your point, intentionally doing things the old school way, so that you force your brain to work and think, because when you don't use something, it starts, degenerating and gets stagnant, and it's hard to get that muscle back in function.
Absolutely. I would agree with you 1000%. Thank you, Glenda. We appreciate you.
Thank you
driving
for having me.
in town, coming back to where all the traffic is. Now you will appreciate living where you live, because you'll see what I left. That's good. Thank you so much.
No problems at all. I love coming back to COP. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure today.
You're welcome. It's our pleasure to host you.